I'll change that. Hmm. Hmm. Just one more second. See if this YouTube catches it. Yeah.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Okay, here we go. Share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Okay, Nakika, I can see it.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome back, everyone. Let me take myself off the screen so I won't be a distraction to you. And let's get started. All right. So, last week we were celebrating the time of what they would call Sukkot. And Sukkot is in time where the Torah is coming to an end. Okay. So even in your Torah portion, it talked about at the end of every 7 years, you are supposed to go to the place where Yahweh has put his name, and they were supposed to teach the Torah and read the Torah and teach the Torah to the people at the end of every 7 years. And that's for the individuals who don't know, winning the children who don't know about the Most High, so they can learn to fear Yahweh and to walk in his ways and to be able to listen to what he has to say. So at this time of our Torah, we are coming to a conclusion, right? And so we're finishing out chapters number 29 through 34. And this whole season, we've been involved in every week going through a Torah portion. And so, it's like harvesting. So at the end of all the work that you've done this year, now we're coming into a harvesting time. Okay. But there are three areas that I want to just kind of focus on. There's so much information from 29 to 34. We don't have time to go through all of it, but I do want to take some of the ideas that I did find in there and go over it with you so you and I can move forward when we go into our next Torah cycle, because that's what we're about to do next week. Okay. So I want to deal with the re-entering into the covenant agreement that the children of Israel did when they were in chapter number 29 and 30, and chapters 20, let me see, 31 and 32 is pretty much dealing with the song of Moshe and dealing with what the children of Israel are going to do. So that's the warning to the future generations. And of course, I want to deal with the reality of where we are today and what's going on and how do we, make our moves and what is y'all looking for from us. And so, as you know, in my studies, I like to take the time to go over Hebrew words because, again, the Hebrew language is our culture. Okay. And I want to make it clear I'm not trying to force us to learn how to read Hebrew. Okay. What I want us to understand is that the only way that we can clearly understand the ideas that surround the Torah, which has been written for us and has been conveyed to us, it was based upon a culture of a people, right? So we're learning the language so we can understand the culture. Okay. So I'm not talking about just modern Hebrew. I'm not talking about, you got to learn how to speak it this way and that. I'm not talking about that. Okay. What I'm talking about is if we understand the cultural significance of the letters and the words, then we will be able to understand what it is that the Most High wanted to convey to us. Because the Torah is written to be taught by the priest, right? The Leviim. They were the ones who's supposed to teach it. And according to the blessing that was found in chapter number 34 of the book of Davarim, which is Deuteronomy in English. And it was their job to teach it to the children of Israel, along with their parents, teach your children and so forth and so on. But ultimately, it was their responsibility to teach the Torah. So, as I've been saying over the last year, or in his Torah cycle, in his harvest time, we find that, we don't have a priest, we don't have a Levim, and I'm not claiming to be one, okay? But I do have the power to read, and I do have the power to understand because that's what the Most High wanted us to do. Not just me, all of us. So we're in this together, okay? So I'm not above you. I'm not. And I'm going to stay right there. I'm not above you. I'm your brother. So I'm going to be right there with you. I'm in the same situation that you're in. I'm not in any greater graces than with the Most High than you are. We're all in this together. Okay. One of the ideas that we need to understand about the Torah, even moving forward for next week, it's always about what is written. Okay. It's always going to be about what is written. They were re-entering the covenant with the Most High, and it was talking about you guys are standing here today because the name of our Torah portion in chapter number 29 is called Netzavim, and Netzavim means to stand. You guys are standing here, and the people that were standing there, who were standing there, were only standing there because Yahweh wanted them to go into a covenant again with them. So the first time that He made a covenant with them was at Mount Sinai. Okay. This time he's renewing that covenant before they were going into the land. And that was the whole purpose of them standing there. And he said, it's not only those who are standing here that I'm making this covenant with, but also those who are not standing here today with us. Okay. So whatever is spoken there applies to the individuals that are standing here today. Not only when they were not there, but who were not even there. Okay. So that's the purpose, because he wanted them to go into this agreement with the Most High. Okay. And all of Yahweh's agreements are written. They're written. Okay. They're not just, hey, you believe it, you drink some wine and you eat some bread, and these are the elements of the new covenant, and you believe this. No, the covenant that we have is one that is written. It is written. Okay. And not only is it written about the covenant, but also too, they were not only entering the covenant, but they were entering an oath with the Most High. Okay. And that oath right there is not saying, well, I swear to, the word for oath and swearing are two different words. Okay. This oath right here has to do with consequences. Okay. That will happen because you're going into a written agreement with the Most High, the creator of the heavens and the earth. So he says he's establishing today for himself as a people, and so that for you, he will be an Elohim. So you're going to be his people. And that happened. That's why they were standing there. And he was going to be your Elohim. He's going to be your power, as he said to you. And he also swore this to your ancestors, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So he's mentioning the ancestors or your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which he's always mentioning them about what he promised them. So he promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that, you know what, I'm going to be their Elohim. And you can find that in Genesis chapter number 17. Okay. I'm going to be their power. I'm going to be their Elohim. I'm going to give them a land. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to feed them. So what we want to do is we want to go over these ideas that we went over before, because we're concluding our harvest time, right? So I want us to understand when Sukkot happens at the end of the year, that's when the last of all the gathering of all the fruit and produce come in. Okay. And from that time after Sukkot, everything begins to get prepared for the next harvest. So now we're at a place where we've talked about the Berit. We talked about the covenant. That's what it's called, a Berit. We talked about the Berit before. Okay. We talked about the oath. We talked about the blessings. We talked about the curses. We talked about what it means to what marriage is. We talked about the discipline of a child. We talked about our responsibility as a people. We talked about how to eat and what it is and what are some of the articles that we're supposed to wear in our clothing. We talked about where we were supposed to worship in chapter number 12, the place that he said. We talked about it's okay for a person to eat meat as long as it's of these different types of animals. We talked about what was unclean versus clean. We talked about if a false prophet comes and tries to talk to you and convince you to turn against the Most High. We talked about how disagreements were settled between people. We talked about how they would choose a king and who was chosen to be the priesthood. We talked about all that through this whole entire cycle. We've been planting. Yah's been giving the water to it. We've done the work. And he's saying now that that time is over, you're going to have to go do it again. That's what we're preparing for. We're preparing now, this time, right now, after Sukkot. As you can see, the seasons are changing. So the weather's changing, right? So now it's about prep. And there's only so much work that you can do before it starts raining. before you're not going to be able to go out and do that prep. So right now, this is just as vital. This is one of the most vital times in our Torah cycle. Yes, we're thinking it's over. It's at the end. Yeah, we made it through. Yes, we did. We gathered what we gathered. We took from it what we can. But we still can do a better job, and we can still move forward, and we can still look forward to the future of greater things coming and more things being revealed to us. Okay. So I'm going to go over a couple of different ideas that you have up here in this, what is written. The first is about the covenant. It's called the Berit. Okay, Berit. And the Berit consists of the Bet and the Resh. That's the two letters, the B and the R. The B is the bait. The Resh is the R. Okay. But the ideas behind it, the agricultural ideas that have to do with the covenant, because that's what a Berit is, okay, a Berit, has to do with the tent, and it has to do with a head. And he's like, okay, tent and head, what does that mean? It means the heads of the families. And what heads of the families? The heads of the families of the tribes, the heads of the family of the grains. So this has to do with family. It has to do with grains. It has to do with agriculture. It has to do with family. It has to do with the choice. It has to do with the best. It has to do with filling the family in order for them to survive. So when it talks about the purpose of you standing here so you can enter this covenant, this agreement is I'm going to be your power. I'm going to power you to defeat your enemies. I'm going to power you to feed you so you guys can continue. But if you cross me and you go against this covenant, this agreement that we have, you're going to receive some of the curses. That's part of it. Okay. So that's what we're talking about. And when I talk about the oath, we're talking about is considered called a ha'ala, the ha'ala. Okay. And of course, it's the aleph and the lamed, which we've talked about before, which has to do with the ox and the staff. Also, the aleph represents the letter. It represents an ox. First time it was ever written, it was written and drawn out to be an ox, not a letter. It was actually drawn out to be a head of an ox, meaning strength and power. Okay. The first time the lamed was written, not as a letter, it was drawn as a staff. So when you have these two ideas between an ox and a staff, what you're talking about is agriculture. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about an agrarian society that the way that they supported themselves was through agriculture. It was through how they took care of this ox. It was how they trained that ox. It was how they led that ox. It was what they did, the yoke that they put on it. Okay, meaning the strong authority, because that's what the staff is. It's the authority, and the ox is the strength. So when you have those two concepts together, you're talking about the strong authority. So when Yaz talks about this being a ha'ala, which you and I understand now when it says oath, we have a better idea that an oath has something to do with strong authority. These are not just words, right? These are things that are alive. These are things that could be, maintained. These are things that could be examples and training tools for us. Okay. So when he says, I'm going to put this oath on you, which is this, what they call a curse, what he's talking about, I'm going to put a heavy yoke on you. You're still my ox. Like he says in Isaiah chapter number 1, an ox knows his owner and a donkey knows his stall. We're still Yahweh's ox. We're still that ox. The ox is a representative of the strong leader. We're still the one that Yah has attached himself to train us. That's where the aleph comes from. So Yah is the aleph, the first letter in Elohim and El. And then you and I come and he said, you guys are Elohim. So we're a little El too. You said, well, explain that. You're a little power. You got some power. Well, how do you know I got power? Because that's the last letters of your name, Yisrael. The last letters of your name, of who you are. You have El with you. He's part of your existence. So when you have these two oxen they're with each other, you got the more mature ox, and then you got the baby ox. And the baby ox is attached to the more mature ox with a yoke. And then they're supposed to make their journey down to the destination. So Yah is saying that I've attached you to me, okay, in order for you to learn how to be powerful, in order for you to learn how to turn people's heads to me. how you can teach people how to follow instructions. So the older, more mature ox is attached to the younger baby ox to teach them how to walk and how to perform the work. See? But you and I have been reluctant and we've been resistant to learning the ways of Yah. And so what he said is, because you have refused, and because, in this agreement, because he told us in chapter number 31, tell me if I'm not telling what he said. He said to Moshe, I know that when these people get into the land, they're going to go serve other gods. They're going to prostitute themselves. So why does he go into an agreement with the people that he knows that is going to do this? Because he's saying, I swore something to your ancestors. Yah's keeping his word. I swore it, I told you. I said it to you. And I said it to your ancestors. So is Yah going to not keep his word because there's a group of people at that time that said, I'm not going to do what he says. We're going to serve other gods. We're going to, default back to what we know. No. So when he says that this oath that I'm entering into you, he's telling you that I'm going to put a heavy yoke on you, and that heavy yoke is the curse that you and I are bearing, that is on our neck. You're going to bear it, okay? Because you and I didn't want to follow the way that he said. And what that yoke is going to do is it's going to destroy your strength. When a yoke is placed on any animal that's young and inexperienced and is not attached to the more mature ox, okay, here's the more mature ox, and here's the baby ox right here behind it. The baby ox cannot endure the weight of the yoke that's going across the neck of the more mature ox. The yoke is heavy. That's that we're represented by this red line, red right here. So if you and I are supposed to carry this yoke right here, we need someone who is just as strong as us to help us carry it and to lead us on the way. So what Yah is saying is, like he told us in his Torah portions, that I'm going to forsake them. Since they turned on me, I'm going to forsake them. They could do it. They're going to do it in their own power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this yoke on them alone, the heavy one. And what's going to happen is this younger ox right here is going to break down in its strength. It won't be able to bear it. It's going to be destroyed. It's going to destroy the strength. It's going to suck out all the strength of the ox. Then the ox is going to be wayward. Then the ox is going to fall. Then the ox is going to, not go in a straight line. So he's telling us that I'm going to put this on you. That's what the Allah is. The word Allah also means to put something upon someone. It actually begins with an aleph. This is how you spell it. So you can see even in the word that the ox is there and the staff, which is the yoke. That's what Yah's telling us. I'm going to put this Allah on you. That's the right here. The ha means I'm pointing directly to what I'm going to do to you. I'm going to destroy you. Like he told us in the song in chapter number 32, that I'm going to see what's going to happen to their strength. Yah is waiting for us to be broken. Then he says to us, call upon your God. Call upon the gods that you've been calling on and see if they help you. Call on the rock that you've been calling on. Call on the one that you've been calling out to their name and the one that you've been giving your dedication, your admiration to. Call on that one when you lose your strength. I want to see if that one's going to answer. And that God has not answered us. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the God that was given to us by our ancestors. I'm talking about the God of the New Testament. I'm talking about the God of what you would call Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'm talking about the God that Paul talked about, who wrote the book of Hebrews. I'm talking about the God who said that he, that people call the son of God, and some people even think he's God. So if he was able to help you and everything's been working out fine for you, then why hasn't things changed for us as a people collectively? Not as one. Listen, we're not, I want to be clear. We're not living as individuals in a nation. When Yah sees us, he sees us as one nation. We're not living just, individually as tribes and say, well, you know what? This is the way we're going to do it. I'm from the tribe of Judah. I'm from the tribe of Manasseh, or I'm the tribe of Ephraim. And we all have our different ideas and customs and traditions. Yes, Rivka.
Our enemy sees us as one too, because when one of us make an offense, you know how when somebody shoots up something or they do something, we always want to make sure it's not one of us because, then they're going to put us all in that bucket. So we're always seen as one, even though we're individuals.
Wow. Cain, that's 100% correct. Go ahead, Elder.
It's Azania, and I just wanted to say where it says right here, it says that yeah, it said it in I don't think you're there yet, but in the Torah portion in Davarim 33, it says that the Most High blesses Israel when all of his people are gathered together in unity.
Wow.
Right. That's exactly what it says. So it's not, how they get up in church and say, I don't know about you, but I'm blessed, And so it's like that comes from not knowing Yah. In fact, I've been reading Torah portions since you presented it to my husband and I years ago. And it's the first time I ever really remember even reading it like that. That's the beauty of the Torah, right?
Yeah.
Cycle. But so it really stuck in my mind. And the individualism that you're talking about was the first thing I thought, how we feel like we can get blessed when our whole neighborhood, our whole nation, and our individual communities are experiencing so much suffering.
Yeah. This is common sense, though, what you were talking about, right? I get a lot of, backlash or blowback because I tell people all the time, they get upset when I say, how is it that I can celebrate saying I'm blessed when Yah's people? How dare I say that I'm in favor with Yah and as all the rest of his people are suffering, right? So when he talks about redeeming his people, he's not talking about, he's even going to take the rebels back he's going to still deliver them. He's taking them out of their captivity. They're not going into the land, but he's still going to take them out like he said he was. So my point here is that we should not live as with the mind of only thinking about ourselves in this context. The covenant is for a people. Okay? It's for a people. Individuals collectively can come together and fall in line with this. And that's what we're going to get into today too. I'm not saying that you as an individual, you're going to, not be able to do anything without them. What I'm saying is how Yah sees us. He sees us as a nation of people, a nation. He always talks about us as one. He never speaks of us as a whole bunch. He only talks about us as one. Okay. So if we understand this idea of this oath, right? This ha'ala, which we are experiencing, that was given in order to make sure that we get destroyed. Okay. So not in a bad way. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. He's not trying to take away our strength to destroy us just for the sake of him saying, aha, I destroyed you. It's for once our strength is destroyed, we would be able to recognize that Yah is our strength. The only way that you and I are ever going to come to understand who he is when we start seeing that we don't have our strength, that he is our strength. The Torah that we read this week or last week said that Yah is your life. He's your power. So without him, you and I can't do anything. Period. The final part of this passage here is dealing with the fact that he says that, when I called you today, he's calling you for himself as a people. I have this word Ami right here. Okay. Ami. You can write it down. Ami basically means my people. And we're going to go over it. But in all cases where the Most High says that you're my people, they're in a place that's set apart from all other peoples. That's number one. Keep that in mind. Second, when he calls his people out from Egypt and out from the nations, they're only there to serve and worship him. Well, Afadu, to serve him and to worship, why Hishtakawu, to serve him, that's found in our covenant. Remember, he said you should not serve another God and you shouldn't wish taco, you should not bow down to them. That's because that belongs to him. So service and worship is part of being Yahweh's people for him. Okay. And as his people, you are under, okay, divine authority. And that divine authority is Yahweh speaking to us his words. Okay, which includes his designated times. I highlighted or put in bold the word design because I saw it in the word designation and designated. That means that Yah has appointed this for you as a particular design. These times have been designed for you, my people. Not what everyone else is doing. You understand? So to be his people, these are the times. So what we're doing right now, when we kept Sukkot last week, and when I say kept it, I mean that we guarded, we have respect unto it. You're showing that, wait a minute, this is a reflection of who his people are. When you kept the Shabbat today, you're showing, you're demonstrating that's a set apart time too. That's a designation, right? It's been designed for you. You can find that in Exodus chapter number 31, verse number 13. That this is a sign between me and the children of Israel. Okay? You understand that the words that he's been talking to us by are divine authority. It has nothing to do with human origin. So it's not from a man who's sitting on a mountain with a whole bunch of other people and he starts telling them how blessed they are. Why? Because it's written. It's written. Okay? This is also written. He says, so let there not be among you a man, a woman, family, which is a mishpaka, or a tribe, whose mind turns away, not past tense, but turning away today from Yahweh our Elohim. He said, well, that was for them. No, he said, those who are standing here and those who are not standing here, to go and serve, which we just saw, serve other gods of those nations. Let there not be among you a root bearing such bitterness, bitter poison, and wormwood. Okay, this was in your Torah portion. So here's our word for Ami. First letter is the ayin that we see right here. And the next one's a meme, and the next one's a yod. Okay. But what do they mean? Remember, it's not about us speaking this, it's understanding what these letters mean. What are these letters? So the ayin has to do with the eye that you have. You have an eye. You have two of them. Which you should have sight, right? And sight is for what? To look and to watch and to observe. That eye opens and it closes, right? The eye is also known as the window of knowledge because that's where you get your visual observation of things. This is how you gather knowledge. So if your eyes are open, you have knowledge. Things will come to you, okay? If your eyes are closed, if they're shut, you cut off the knowledge, okay? So, and also too in Hebrew, the eye is what they call a deep spring. So just in the earth, they call the eye of the earth, the eye of the land. The eye of the land is a hole in the land, in the earth, that looks like an eyeball, okay? And inside of there is a spring of water. So how does this relate to your eye? Somebody tell me. Think about water and think about your eye. How does it relate? Oh, that's right. When you and I have a deep feeling of sorrow or joy in the deepest part of who we are in our soul, we begin to what? What comes out of your eye? Somebody.
Tears, water.
Tears. Water. You have water that's in you. Okay. So when you have this feeling and you have joy or you have remorse, you go to springs, it's deep. You'll start crying and the water will come out your eyes. Do you understand? Just like the earth. Okay. Also, too, did you know, and I'll talk about a little bit later, Yah actually has a book that he counts and writes down your tears. He knows how many tears you've cried. Okay. And the Hebrew letter ayin is a letter that's silent. Why? Because when you're looking at something, you don't have to say anything. Your information is coming through silence. Okay. The meme, the next letter, water, it means water. Okay. It means a mass of water. And a mass of water is chaos, like the seas and the storms. Okay. And also means something that's hidden. So in the Hebrew, it would be the question like what? Like, ma. They would use a word called ma, right? Which tells you something that's hidden. What is it? So grammatically, they use this letter to be, to ask questions. They might use this letter in Hebrew to, be a preposition, like when you go to or from somewhere. So that's the ideas behind this letter mem. Okay. And again, so far, these two letters combined, these two right here so far means, or you put them together, you would gather those ideas together. Okay. And that means my people. That's people right there. Okay. So when he's talking about the people, what he's talking about is to see the mass. That's what he's talking about. See the mass. So going back to what Azania mentioned, Yah doesn't see us as a drop of water. He sees us as a mass. He sees us all together. Okay. And it's not, and so the idea behind us being his people is when we're all together. That's how he sees us. Okay. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Here's the evidence of that. In the Hebrew, there's a word, two words that are written exactly the same. Ayin and the mem. The mem right here looks like a box because it's the final mem. Okay. One is called an and one is called an im. Okay. Just pronounced differently. This is im and this is This one right here means people. And this one right here means with. So when Yah sees us as a people, he only sees us when we're together as a mass. That's when he would declare us to be his people. Not only because we're together, when we're together, that means the Yahweh is what?
He's present.
He's present and so forth. If he's present, he is with what? He's with us. So when you and I are trying to find out or figure out why things are not working out with all these different ideas and congregations, and we can't seem to get all on the same page. Everyone's doing the Shabbat the way they want to. Everybody's reading the Torah the way they want to. Some people are using the prophets to be the authority, and they're justifying the Torah by adding, the New Testament and all this kind of stuff. The only way that we know that Yahweh is with us is when we're all together saying the same thing. And there's a lot of scriptures that I didn't have time to put in here, but he says, then you'll know that I'm with you. Yes, Elder or Azania.
The bill. I just connect that with one of the things that you're saying that brings to mind for me is the fact that he says that he's going to go to all four corners of the earth to gather us. He didn't say I was going to go to New Jersey to gather Elder Bill. He said he's going to gather us as a nation. And the same way he says every knee will bow.
Yes.
And I just connected it, and it's almost like you said, it just brings tears to
Yeah.
be confirmed. You
Right,
know,
right,
like,
right.
it feels funny to have tears swell up in your eyes, but sometimes it just happens because you realize truth is being told.
It's being told. I cried. I'll be honest with you. When I was studying, when I was putting this slide together, I began to weep because I finally understood. I understood that the only way that Yah says that I am with you is when all of you are together. Now he's not trying to just get me right. He's trying to get all of us right.
Hallelujah.
It's not like he introduced the Torah just to me, like I'm so special. No, 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 no. That's arrogance. Yah is looking for all. He said, "Would I not have the wicked change their way?" I was wicked. I turned from my wickedness. I acknowledged it. So he's telling us that you are my people. Now, the last part of my people is this yod right here. And that means the hand, it means to make, it means to work, it means to throw, and possession. Everything a hand does. You use your hand to make something, you use it to work with, you use it to throw, and use it to take possession of. Okay. So in this case, when he says that's people. Then me, my people. So what makes us different than the rest of these masses and all the world that you see in the mass, and the whole world right now is in chaos, right? And through the waters and the nations and separated through the nations, through the waters, right? So they give the different geographical locations through waters. So that all makes sense. So when Yah says that you're my people, the first thing that Yah did was he revealed his hand to us. And somebody tell me, where did he reveal his hand to us? When did he show his strong hand that he wants you to remember?
In the book of Shemot.
There you go. And it's in the covenant. He says, I'm the one who brought you out of the land of Egypt. So why? To make you a what? A set apart people for me. And Yah did that by the work of his hand. That same hand that took us to be his possession is the same hand that said in your Torah portion this week that I'm going to throw you out of the land. I'm going to fling you to all the different nations. Like Elder Bill just brought out, the Most High has scattered us to the four corners of the earth. And it's going to be by that hand that the Most High is going to do another work. That hand, that work right there can also, instead of throwing, it could be to gather, that he said, I'm going to gather you for the four corners of the earth. So this is what Ami means. This is what my people mean. See? So when we look at it just from, hey, these are just my people. No, 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 no. It goes deeper than that, as you can see right here. So the last slide, I brought out the word that he told you in your Torah that you are not, I don't want this around you. I don't want a root. I don't want someone who's with a bitter root with poison in it and wormwood. I don't want that to be among my people. Okay? I don't want this. So I want to take out the time to show you why he's saying this. Because the Most High is an Elohim of agriculture. So he uses agriculture to teach us. Just like in the language, he uses agriculture. It's called a shoresh. Okay? You can write that down. A shoresh. Shoresh. Okay? Shoresh means a root. Okay? It's not confusing. It's very simple. Okay? The shoresh is beneath the dirt. Okay? It's hidden. This is the dirt underneath. Okay? So they say that's dirt. Okay? So it's underneath. This is the ground right here. The brown line, that's the ground. You don't plant seeds above the ground. You got to dig the earth and you put it below the ground. Okay? So that's what that is. So what you see here is these letters are parents for your word Ami. So when I'm talking about my people, I need to explain to you too. Because the Most High is saying, I don't want a certain root among you. I don't want a root that's bitter, because if I have a bitter root on the bottom, if I have a bitter root and it starts off like here, right here, then the child who's going to come out of that root, the stem, this long part right here is the stem of the tree that's coming out. That stem, that bitterness is down here is going to migrate up here to the child. So I have to get rid of the bad, bitter wormwood that could be found inside of the root. Okay. So in this case, the Most High is telling us that you can have something in the deepest part of you that if it doesn't get eradicated, it could spread to your children. And that's what's happened to us. There was someone in the crowd that said, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And it went and it migrated to the child. In the Hebrew language, you have the two letters down here, which are the mother and the father, and you add this extra letter up here, and it's called a child root. So the parent right here is a root, and another parent, you need two parents. That will give you the roots. Those are the parent roots right here, parents. Okay. Then you have the child. So when the parents come together, they can have a child. And this is the child that they had, Ami. So the child is actually this Yod right here. Okay. So that's what a Shoresh is. So even in the language is not just words. They're not just letters. The ideas behind this, like we just went over the ayin and we went over the mem. So it tells us what's in the ground. So whatever's in the ground is what's going to come up, right? And then develop into something, okay? So look what Yah's showing us. He's saying, like, you guys could be a regular nation of people. That's what an Am is, people, a nation. But I'm going to do something. This in particular tree stem is going to be different because it has Yah's signature on it. It has his hand on it. So you're different. Okay. So when you look at our root system as a people outside of this word right here, I could put Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob below this line right here. I could put your fathers right here, right here, about underneath. I could put Sarah in here. I could put Rivka in here. I could put Raquel in here. I could put Leah in here. I could put Jacob in here. And then comes out the stem. And then the stem has branches, and it goes all the way. So even the language there teaches you. So here's the bottom line. If you and I understand agriculture in some kind of way, then we'll understand what Yah was talking about, even in the language. That's why the language is important. Okay. So on the bottom again, I'm still using the same example as this word Ami, my people. Okay. Which is a ayin, a mem, and a yod. What we have now, I already told you what the shoresh is. So the shoresh is the parents and the child. Okay. The root, the parent root is down at the bottom. And then the shoresh for the child is when the parent and child all come together. That's the stem. Okay. That grows up out of the ground. Once the parents and the child all grow up, what's going to happen with that child is they're going to have 7 different ways that they could do something. Okay. This is called binyan. Okay. In Hebrew. And binyan basically means the building structure. I got to kind of speed it up a little bit for you guys. So the bina, or the binyan, is the building structure. Okay. Don't let this intimidate you. I'm going to explain it to you. Okay. Basically, anytime you're dealing with any word in Hebrew, okay, which we're talking about any family, and let's just say any person or any family, because this again is the mother and the father at the bottom. This is the father, and this is the mother, and this is the child. So I'm not just talking about letters. I'm talking about how something grows. Yah uses the language to teach you on how things should grow. And he's teaching you on the possibilities on how something can grow. That's the reason why he used the word shoresh, because he's saying that there's a root that could be inside of a person. So you would like to think that you're not connected to agriculture, which you are. We're like a tree. That's why they have the idea of a family tree and what comes off that family line and who are the parents and who are the grandparents. And this person acts like this person. Oh, this person picked up the character trait from this. Oh, this person looks like old Uncle such and such. Or they have the same eyes. All that stuff is passed on. So the binyan right here is for building, because that's found in these 2 letters. This B and this N right here tells you that it's building. Okay. Building what? The structure. So if you know how to build a structure of a family, not only in a language, but in family, you'll be able to understand how things work. Okay. So Yah is saying that in order for us to deal with this bitterness or this root of bitterness, we're going to have to go to the source, which is the root, to find where the problem's at. So the problem is not with the child. The problem is with the parents. It's with the parents. The child is just going to grow up like you see this stem right here. And then the child's going to have some different ways about them. And I listed these ways in these Hebrew words called, grammatical terms called hofel, hitfel, hitpael, nifal, and pl, and pual, and grammatical terms of call, right? There's 7 of them, okay? And this is telling us there's 7 different ways that something can grow, okay? The first way, it could grow in a very simple way. That's a call stem, okay? Some things could be active and some things can be passive. So this one right here, the whole fall, and this one right here is passive. They're both passive ways. They're not active. It means something, can happen by someone else doing something to them, okay? But basically, the way that this root is growing is that there are some things that are going to grow by force. There's some things that are going to be causative. That something else is going to cause something to happen, okay? So something can happen through causation, something can happen through force, and something can be reflexive, meaning you could do it to yourself right here, called a hitpael. And some things just can happen passively, right? And then, of course, here's a PL, forceful. So you got a force that could be active, and you got a force that could be passive. Here's a force that is active, meaning you're doing something. You're actively making it happen. Here is something's happened to you causatively. Passively, something happened to you, okay? So it won't be so confusing. I'm just trying to bring out the point that even in the language, the way that these 7 stems are the 7 different ways that things can happen. Some way that the stem can grow. So how does this relate to being a person, right? The Most High is showing us, just like in the language, that if the parents are a certain way, you may have a child who can exhibit some of these different behaviors. So you might have a child to be self-sufficient and they do everything and they do it all by themselves. Then you might also have a child up here, the whole fail, that everything that you have to cause to happen for them. You say, well, is that a bad thing? No, it's not, because when Yah talks to us, I'm going to show you that he says there's some things that I have to do for you. I got to cause something to happen for you, because if I don't do that, you're not going to do it. There's some times where you could talk to your child in a call stem in a very simple manner. Hey, I need you to take care of this for me. Okay, speak to your child. Okay, then there's other times that you got a child that you have to use force with, a PL. You have to force them to do it. Some things have to be caused in a forceful way. So what is the point of me mentioning all this? Is showing you that even in the language and even in your life as your family, is the way that things grow. You understand? So there's a structure on how things work. And you and I have never been told or taught how things work, how Yah sees it. That's the reason why he mentions the Shoresh. Not just so I give you a Hebrew lesson, but to tell you what it is. So even within that structure, Yah is giving us a warning through saying, don't let this Shoresh be there. Don't let this root be in your family, among you guys. Because if this happens, it can destroy the future generations. Okay, here's what he says. He said, if there is such a person, when he hears the words of this curse, meaning the ha'olah or the ha'ala, he will bless himself secretly, saying to himself, I'll be all right, even though I will stubbornly keep doing whatever I feel like doing, so that I, although dry, sinful, will be added to the water. Okay, meaning like I'm joined with them. So it's not going to be a big deal for me. Okay, going back to our example. Okay, that word of being stubborn is called sheri root. Okay, that's what it is. It's called sheri root. That means to be stubborn. Okay, so I say, well, yeah, if you're telling us what a sheri root is, he says, well, find out what the shoresh is. Find out what the shoresh is. Find out who the parents are. Find out who the parents are right here. Those are the parents, and this is the child. Okay, this word sharar is the child. Down here is just shar. Okay, which is one of the key words to some type of change. Okay, so this child or this individual that he's talking about is stubborn, right? So what's found in the letters here, that letter right there means to turn. The next for head right here is found in here. Okay. Turn the head. Well, let's see. Do we have anybody that you remember called to turn the head? Oh, that's right. Real quick. I just wrote out somebody's name. Could you tell us who it is?
Sarah.
Sarah. Sister Azania, what does Sarah do as a woman? What do you remember her for? Our mother, what did she do?
Yeah, she was our foremother. She did she did a whole lot of things.
Yeah, she did. But what was Abraham afraid of?
Her beauty.
Why? Because she was what?
She was extremely beautiful, and she turned heads.
She turned heads. It's in there. Okay. So look at here. So I'm gonna write another name. So you can see that this is really where it's at. Whose name is that?
Israel.
Yes. So what is Yisrael supposed to do?
What are we supposed to be? Turn heads.
We're supposed to turn heads. To who? To El. So, okay, this person's thinking, they're Shariut, they're thinking in their mind that I'm going to turn my head away from the direction that we're supposed to go. Okay. This word shar right here is considered to be this. There's a Hebrew word here. I'll just add another letter. This is another child that they may have had. That child's name is Asher, and Asher means wealth. And also grammatically it means with or tied to or whatever. That's where you get this idea cord. Okay. So this means to tie and it means to bind. So there's a lot of words that are connected to these parents. Okay. That could be good, but here's the child right here that's taking an extra. It has two heads. That means that it's stubborn. Two heads. That means no matter what you do to this child, they're still going to do what they want to do. They're going to turn away, not turn towards. They're going to turn away. That's being stubborn. And is connected to being hostile, and being an enemy is connected to being that as well. Because the enemy is the one who binds you with a cord. So the words are connected. Okay. So this individual that's stubborn is not just saying, I'm going to be stubborn and saying, hey, because I'm dry, I'm with the water. What they're saying is, I'm connected and I'm tied to these people. I'm part of Israel. I'm in Israel. I'll be fine. Because the Most High is not going to destroy the water with that which is dry. If I don't get any water, that's fine. Doesn't matter. I'm still there. It's like, someone being inside of a group or a band, and I ain't gonna say any names, but there was an individual that I know that was part of an orchestra who didn't practice their clarinet. And then when they were in the clarinet, when they had the concert, they were pretending to play the clarinet. When all the other students were playing the clarinet, they were acting like they were playing. Because they're in a group and they figure nobody's going to see them. Do you understand? Sorry for using an example. You know who I'm talking about. Yah is telling us, because you're part of the group or because you're part of Israel, doesn't mean that you can be in the family of Yah and be stubborn and do what you want to do and think there ain't going to be any consequences. Because Yah looks at you now as an enemy. Let me see. I'm not the one you're talking about, but I've done that. There's a warning that all of us need to be aware of, okay, for being Shariut. Yah says that he will not, Moshe told them, which the people were standing and the people who were not standing there, that Yah's not going to forgive that individual. Yah's not going to forgive a stubborn person. I hope you hear what he's saying to us. Yah is not going to forgive that stubborn person. He's not going to forgive the individual who, listen, he's not going to forgive the individual who turns away from him. Yah's not going to forgive the individual who's decided to be an enemy. Yah is not going to forgive the individual that is bent on doing what they want to do, who refuses to change their attitude and their behaviors. That person will not be forgiven. So you think he's just talking to people that were standing there, same chapter, he's talking to the people who are not standing there. Rather, the anger and jealousy of Yah will blaze up against that person. Every curse, every ha'ala written, going back to what's written in this book, will be upon him or her or that family. Remember, it wasn't just about the man, it wasn't about the woman, it's about a family or a tribe. Yahweh will blot out his name from under heaven. That means that you will be eternally destroyed. Okay? So don't be stubborn. Why? See? Command, it is written. Been telling you all the time, it's written before me. I will not be silent until I repay them. I will repay them to the full, your own crimes and those of your ancestors together. Yah has documents. Okay? He has books that you and I need to be aware of. Okay? This Torah portion that we've been talking about in the last couple of them, it talked about a ketuvah, okay, or a ketuvah. Some say a ketuvah, some go ketuvah, right? It comes from the word katav, meaning to write, some type of writing, okay? So there are all these writings that we know of, but there's other writings that we don't know of, okay? The Sefer HaTorah Hazot is the Sefer, the book, the writings of the Torah that we're told that we're supposed to listen to. And he points to the Hazot, meaning this one. The HaTorah means this. He's pointing directly to this Torah, meaning the instructions that have been written. So the words that have been written in our Torah can never be added to, can never be subtracted. But he's saying that this is important for you to understand, because if you're not getting this HaTorah Hazot, and these are not what you're listening to, and you're listening to other writings, you're looking at other ketuvah, other writings like the New Testament, or you're looking at other books outside of the scriptures, you're looking at New Age books, you're looking at, psychological books, you're looking at New Age books, you're looking at, metaphysics books, you're looking at, any other book, then you're going to have a problem, because he's only concerned with the HaTorah Hazot, this book. So whatever has been written in the Torah, okay, is what you and I have to be responsible for, okay? There's also another book, and a Sefer is not a book with a binding, it's really a scrolls, okay? So the scrolls of the Zikaron. So a Sefer Zikaron is a book or a scroll of remembrance. That's found in Malachi chapter number 3, verse number 16. A Sefer of Kayim, there's a book of life, a scroll of life that will have your name written in it, 69 and 28 in Psalms. Okay. Then there's also another book that I found. There's a book called the Sefer of Nod, okay, in exile. That means your wanderings and all your tears and all your crying and all the bad things that have happened to you. All those things are written too. You say, well, why is all this written? Because Yahweh has an accounting. So the individual, right? So we got the HaTorah Hazot, and included the HaTorah Hazot is written a Ha'ala, which is the curses or the bad things that are supposed to happen. That's supposed to come upon the person, that Yah is going to make sure that it happens. And that person's not going to be forgiven. Why? Because they wanted to stay stubborn. Not because he wanted them to, it's because they chose to. So Yah has writings that you and I need to be aware of. Okay. So the divine decrees that we have are written. And some of those divine decrees is the HaTorah Hazot that you and I have been reading. So you've been receiving divine instruction. And so he's going to tell us what we're supposed to do with this. Okay. And which you and I have been doing. As Elder Bill had mentioned, he said, when the time arrives that all these things have come upon you, both the blessing and the curse, which I have presented to you, and you are there among the nations to which Yahweh your Elohim has driven you, then at last you will start thinking about what has happened to you. And you will return to Yahweh your Elohim and pay attention to what he has said, which will be exactly what I'm ordering you to do today, you and your children with all your heart and all your being. So, Akika, why do you have you in bold all the way through you and your? Why do you have that? Because the Most High is speaking to the individuals who choose to listen. So, yeah, he wants everyone to get it, but everyone's not going to listen. Okay. The idea of start thinking, that way of thinking, talking about your mind, when it comes to your mind, your thinking, that action right there is causative. Going back to the idea that you and I, this is not something that you and I came up with. It's not something that you decided that I'm going to start thinking about it. So when you say, when you start thinking, they tell you when you start thinking. That's not what Yah says. He didn't say when you start thinking. He says when it's caused you to come back to your mind. And the question is, who caused it to come to your mind? Because it's not a hitpael, it's not something that you have done, it's something that has been caused upon you. Okay. And the thing that's going to cause this to happen, what's going to cause you to start thinking about this, are the things that you start suffering from. You're going to start thinking about this. You're going to start the curses, the things, the ha'alot, the heaviness of the yoke that's been placed on our neck that we saw earlier about Yah being the ox with us, and he takes it off and we're bearing the yoke and our power is being destroyed, and we see our people as a nation, we're suffering. Those are the things that are going to cause you to start thinking. They should. So Yah is using the Allah to speak to you and me, to speak to us. Yah is using the Allah that we talked about. He's using the yoke of burden and heaviness. He's using the depletion of your strength to get our attention, so you and I would recognize that he is our power. So this is the reason why he said, I know that the people, when they go into the land, they're going to prostitute themselves and they're going to break my covenant. So why would he allow that to happen? Because the Most High has not only used the covenant to join himself to us, but he's also used the Allah, which is the curse, to remind us and to cause us to come back to him. So the idea of returning to Yah has been because of the Allah. It's because you have been caused to see it. So when he told the earlier generation that he hasn't given them a mind, listen out. One of the things that stuck out to me is that it says here, and I'll just read it in English for the sake of time, in chapter number 29, verse number 3, it says, the great trials that your eyes saw, and the signs and those great wonders, verse number 4. But to this day, Yahweh has not given you a heart to understand, not giving you a mind or eyes to see or ears to hear, which is alev la da'at and la enayim to lirot and azanayim to lishmoa. Meaning that these individuals, they saw all the things that Yah did, and he didn't give them a mind to understand. He didn't give them the knowledge. He didn't give them the divine knowledge. But look what he gave you and I. Yah has given us divine knowledge. Yah has revealed a secret to you and I. Remember, it said the secret things belong to Yahweh, but those things have been revealed to us, belong to us and our children. That's in chapter number 29. We're in chapter number 30, but do you know chapter number 29 is a continuation of chapter 30 is a continuation of chapter number 29? There is no break in there like, hey, the teaching is over. 29 verses 10 all the way down to the end is one segment of the teaching. 30 goes along with 29. So for you to understand 30, you got to understand 29. So when Yah's talking in chapter number 29 about this root of bitterness, he's talking about, getting rid of this individual, talking about, I'm going to put these curses on you, and I'm not going to forgive that individual. And at the end of 29, the last thing he says out of nowhere is the secret things belong unto Yahweh, but those things revealed unto us belong to us and our children, that so that we might keep the Torah. So Yah is revealing a secret to you, and to me today to tell us that I'm the one who caused you through the curse that I put upon you in the covenant. So the curse that's in the covenant, it was there for your benefit. It's there for your benefit. It's there to cause you to come back to Yahweh. And when it talks about you will return to Yahweh, it's with Shafta. You're going to return to Yahweh. We're going to talk about that. Okay. But the two right here is to be a witness. So you're not just returning to Yah, you're actually returning to be a witness to the Most High. Okay. Because you're going to Shemoah. So you're going to Shavata, which is return, and then you're going to Shemoah. You're going to Shemata. You're going to pay attention to what he said. And the thing about it is, it's going to be exactly what I'm ordering you to do today. So nothing has changed between that time of when they heard it versus when he said, I'm telling you whatever I'm telling you today is going to be exactly what I'm ordering you today. Exactly. Exactly. So there's no additional writings that you need to listen to in order to cause you to return back to Yahweh. The curse alone is what caused you. You and your children turn back to Yahweh. Oh, don't let me forget. The last part of this, he says, you, your children, with all your heart and with all your being. Somebody tell me, what does with all your heart and all your being sound like? Where do you hear that a lot? With all your heart and with all your being. What is he making reference to? With all your heart and with all your being.
He's talking about that's in Deuteronomy 30, right?
Yeah, he's talking that, but he says, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad.
Yes, sir. Right.
Love Yahweh with all your what? All your heart and all your being. That's your nefshika. So he's saying that you're going to return to me, you and your children. Now here's the thing. I'll bring this out. He says that this individual, you're going to shuv, you're going to return to me. Okay, because that's what this word is. This is the root again. Here's the mother, father at the bottom. And then we have the child in the middle, causing this word to be called shuv. And this is what shuv means. The first letter means to press. That's what that first letter means. This letter right here means to press, like your two front teeth, to press down on something. This letter right here means house or tent. So to shuv means that you're going to turn back, and we talk about you're going to press back. We say you're going to return to me, so you're going to press towards the tent. What tent? What's the tent that he wants you to return to? The tent of what? What tent did Moshe go to?
Tent of meeting.
The tent of meeting. When you go to the tent of meeting, right? Yah says that I want you to do this, right? When you come to the place where I will call and choose to have my name, you're becoming a witness. Because you're doing it over and over and over again. You're an eyewitness. This is the eye and this is the door. You're an eyewitness. You are a witness to the tent of meeting. So when you and I are going back to what Moshe had commanded on that day, you and I, and we're returning to that two right there is odd, meaning you returning to be a witness to Yah. So you got to go back to the tent of meeting. You got to go back to the Bakolo. You got to go back to the words that Yahweh said. That's what the individual has to do. The you or the individual is mentioned over 82 times in the chapter. Not one time in chapter number 30 is the idea of plurality mentioned, or responsibility is about an individual. Because the individual is the one who's going to make up the collective. You understand? So you and I have work to do as these individuals. You see? Just like the sheen means to press by itself. The bed right here doesn't mean to press. The bed means tent. So I can't change. I can't make the sheen be the tent. I can't make the bed be the sheen. They have their individuality, but they still make up a collective. They work together. They function together to bring about what the true definition or meaning of something is. So they create another word to give you the concept of pressing towards the tent. That's an idea, but it happened because you took two individuals and you brought them together to create another individual. And then that individual goes ahead and get with someone else and they create another individual. You understand? So these are shoreshes. Okay. So the idea about turning back to Yahweh also means to be an active listening. You're an active listener. That means you literally are sitting here trying to figure it out. You're writing down your questions. You will have questions, but you're actively listening. You care. You're not so hungry or thirsty to get your point over. You're trying to figure out, what does this all really mean? Okay. Talked about thinking, going on to the other side. Again, I brought out the fact that the Most High said is causative. You're going to start thinking about why, because of the things that have happened to you. So now, again, you've already witnessed it. So when the Most High talked about that I haven't given it to you, and let me show you what that word is right here. He said that they don't know. I didn't give them a mind to da'at. Okay. So the word da'at right here has the same two letters right here that are in witness. So when he says that you don't know, I haven't given you a mind to understand or to know, he's saying that you haven't really testified to what I'm saying. You're still going to do what you want to do. That's why you're going to go and worship other gods. So the difference between that generation and our generation is the fact now that you and I are getting the da'at. We're getting the knowledge from Yah. We're becoming the witnesses of Yah. Okay. Let me put da'at up here so you can see the letters. Your da'at right here. Just reverse those other letters, and there it is. So this word right here means to know, and this word right here means witness. These letters are included in knowing. They're just reversed. So now you and I are going back to being witnesses because you and I have gathered the knowledge, and we've gathered our knowledge not based on Yah coming into the like he did with them in Mitzrayim, and he did all the signs and wonders. He didn't choose to use signs and wonders for us. I listen. I want to make sure that we understand something. Yahweh used signs and wonders, and after he did all the signs and the wonders, he said to them, somebody read it in chapter number 29. Who wants to be my reader? Chapter number 29, verse number 4. What did he say? Start in 2. Read 2 all the way to 4. Who wants to be my reader?
Is it Deuteronomy 29:4?
29 and 4 all the way. Yeah, read 29 and 2 all the way to 2, 3, and 4. What does it say?
The wondrous feats that you saw with your own eyes, those prodigious signs and marvels. Yet to this day, Yahweh has not given you a mind to understand, or eyes to see, or ears to hear. I led you through the wilderness 40 years. The clothes on your back did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet.
Okay. So they saw with their eyes all the stuff that Yah did, and Yah did not give them eyes and a mind to understand. He didn't give it to Da'at to have knowledge. They were still blind. He still hasn't given it to them. So what he's telling us is that they saw those things and they still didn't get it, right? For us, he's saying what caused you to wake up wasn't a sign or a miracle. It was actually the Allah, the Ha'ala. It was the oath that you're recognizing that caused you to open up your eyes to see. So Yah has given us the understanding because we're basing upon our knowledge what we've actually seen with our eyes. We saw it. We're seeing this. Not even that we saw it. We're actually witnessing it today. Am I right or am I wrong? What is he saying? He's saying you have seen it. Got it? You have seen the curses. You have seen these things. And that is what's going to cause you to start thinking. So we're different than them. Yah has given us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding so we can start thinking. He's the one who's caused it, but he's caused it through the curse. So for us, even as bad as the curse has been beneficial to us. That's what I'm trying to show you. Okay. The returning as witnesses to Yah is because we are returning back to what Yah has said. That is the odd. And you're learning, not only are you thinking about the curses, you're actually thinking on how now to think. So you're just not like, well, I'm a victim. You're saying, okay, well, now that we understand this, what do I need to do now to change? You're learning how to think properly. That's why when we go through the Torah cycle, you and I are returning back to Yahweh. Shuv means to be going one direction and then all of a sudden change the course of direction and go the other way. So we've been going wrong, and then all of a sudden we stopped. It's like, wait a minute, look at all this stuff that's going on. And then all of a sudden, okay, turn around, go back. So when you go back, you're going back and you're pressing towards your tent. So your tent was right here, back in the land, and you got pushed and flung out of your land to this other place. You went to this other shack over here. You went to your master's house. Now that you're here as a slave, Yah says, now I'm going to turn back and I'm going to bring it to your attention, all the stuff you're suffering. And now all of a sudden, I want you to make your way back to the tent. So are you pressing back? Yeah, you are. And you have to do that through active listening. Okay. And then as a result of this, Yah says, I'm going to reverse what? I'm going to reverse your exile. So we understand that reversing our exile is a process, because returning to Yah is a process. So shuving is a process. To press back towards the tent, it takes time to get back home. This is home. You understand? And we're going to have a pit stop. And when we go to that pit stop, we're going to the wilderness. Okay, because this is your home. This is your house. Okay? Yahweh's house. That's where you're going. But he said, I'm going to reverse your exile. And the reason why this is going to happen is because you and I decided to be more cooperative. We're not going against Yahweh. We're not being stubborn. We're saying, I'm going to cooperate with you by listening. Okay. So one of the things that I want to bring out too, and I don't know if I have a slide for it, but I want to bring some comfort to you, to tell you something. Okay. One of the first things, let me go back here right quick. One of the things that I want to do to bring comfort to you and I is this. In chapter number 30, he begins to tell us that we need to do what to listen. Okay, so the first part of that, and I'll read it right quick. The first part is this. He says, and when all these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you call them to mind among the nations where Yahweh your Elohim has driven you, and you return, that is the shuv, shavta, you and your Elohim, and you're going to shemata, you're going to listen to his voice. Okay. That's the first part of the process. The second part of the process is you're not going to be able to do what Yah is saying until you get to verse number 8. Okay. Verse number 8 is when I bring you into the land. Okay. So he's not asking you and I to do the things that he's asking us to do according to the law when we're not in the land. You're only going right now. Our job is to listen, to return and listen to what he has to say. Okay. And that listening is obeying it. Okay. You say, well, obeying and doing are two different things. They're two different words. Okay. Doing says, I'm going to do it in the manner in which you told me to do it. You cannot do it the way that he says until he puts you back in the land. So listen to what this says. When Yahweh your Elohim will bring you back into the land your ancestors possessed, you will possess it, and he will make you prosper there. That word prosper means that he's going to increase you, right? But also too, it has a word that is connected to the word remnant. So only the people who are going back to the land to be there, and the only ones who are going to prosper are going to be the individuals collectively who decided to listen to Yah. Okay. And he says, and you will become even more numerous than your ancestors. Why? Because you're going to be a remnant. He's going to increase your numbers even more than your ancestors. And what ancestors he's talking about, your ancestors who were already in the land, the people who went there. Okay. He says, then, I want you to hear this, then Yahweh Elohim will circumcise your hearts. Right? So at this particular time, your heart is your mind. And he said, and the minds of your children, so that you would love Yahweh, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your being, and thus you will live. Somebody tell me, where are we commanded to love Yahweh with all of our heart and all of our being? What is that? What command was that? I said earlier. What is that? Somebody wants to say it. I hear it. Shema Yisrael. You are to listen and obey Israel. Your Elohim Yahweh is one. You are to what? Love Yahweh with all your heart and all your being. That's all your mind and all your soul, right? So he keeps mentioning this idea about loving him. Okay. So let me ask you a question. Do you and I love Yahweh with all of our heart and all of our being?
I would say no.
You will be 100% correct. We love Yahweh, but we don't love him the way that he wants to be loved and the way that he has to be loved. Yah cannot be properly loved in a land that doesn't facilitate his blessing. Yah cannot be properly loved when we're not keeping his commandments the way that he prescribed. Yah is, so when he talks about circumcising our hearts, our minds, he's saying that your mind right now, your mind is not circumcised. You're only going to get that circumcision of your mind, which they have as your heart, when Yahweh brings you back into the land. That might hurt our feelings, but it's the truth. Right now, you're under the curse that's causing you to turn back. He's using the curse to turn you back to him. So what we have done is say, well, I don't want the curse. I know you now, and you know me, and I'm your people, and you're my God. And he said, no, no, no. You're not at this moment, because you're not set apart. Why do you want to be my people and you're not set apart? Why are you claiming to be my people and you're eating defiled bread? Why are you claiming to be my people and you don't have any land? You don't have anything I could bless. Why are you saying you're my people and you don't show up 3 times a year where I told you, very specific, the place that Yahweh chooses to set his name? Why are you claiming to be my people and so desperately want me to accept where you're at? Why are you around telling everybody that I blessed you, when the whole nation around the 4 corners of the earth are suffering? And all of a sudden now you're the one out of everybody else that I chose and I love more than everyone else. You and I don't know what's going on. We need to humble ourselves and accept the truth of the fact that we're not circumcised in our hearts. I take this as a warning to me, because I have a high expectation for my children. I want them to love Yah. They only love him as much as they can love him. This is what they're doing, because the hearts of you and your children, your hearts and your children. We have to stop putting so much pressure on ourselves. I'm not giving us a relief package like you don't have to do what he says, you don't have to listen, or you could dishonor the Shabbat and all that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, Yah has made it clear that my people are the people that are in my presence. I think Azania brought that out. My people are the people that are not around the nations. My people are the people that are in the book of Numbers that said they dwell alone. My people are not having to worry about every time they go to a restaurant whether or not there was some pork grease that was on a hamburger that they're eating. My people don't have to worry about being taken advantage of the court system and the people that hate them. My people understand that my blessing is found in the land. When I say that I'm going to make you more numerous, and I'm talking about I'm going to bless your wombs and I'm going to bless the work of your hands in the land. My people will not dare to say that they love me wholeheartedly, because they're not in the capacity to do so. The only capacity that we have as his people is to listen to his voice and to return back to our Elohim. And we could do it with all of our heart and all of our soul. But the love part, see, in verse number 2, he tells you, 2 and 30 or 30 and 2 is very clear. I'll read it again. He said, and you will return, verse 2, to Yahweh your Elohim, you and your children obey his voice that I'm commanding you with all your heart and with all your soul. Here, up there, he didn't mention anything about love. He didn't mention in verse number 8, like right here, to tell us, well, that's when you're going to do what I'm telling you. That's when you're going to be able to perform it. So as you can see, the process of returning out of exile and the reversing process is one that will demand certain things from us at certain times. And you and I, the expectation should not be on ourselves that we can't perform. And this is where the fatigue is happening. This is where the discouragement is happening, where people are deciding, I can't do this anymore. So they get discouraged and they leave Yah because people have pressed them so hard on saying that you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this, and we got to keep this, and we got to, and there's no continuity. But the reality of the situation is this, is that as individuals, when you and I decide to return to Yah, our only purpose of returning to him is to listen to his voice. And when you and I return to him, we're saying, I have the ability to listen. I have the ability, okay, to guard. I have ability. I'm not powerless. I can live to what the expectation is while I'm in my exile. I could do that. I choose this. After it's been brought to my attention, I can choose it. That's why Moshe said, choose today. I said before you. He wasn't setting that before them only. He was setting it before those who were standing there and those who weren't standing there. We're not powerless. You make your choice. And whatever choice you and I make is our choice. And we should be okay with that. You understand? We can listen. We can have the good for ourselves. We choose good. We could choose. You're choosing to exercise your right, your birthright. To say like, okay, I have an inheritance that's mine. It was promised to my fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is what's required of me. At this in particular moment, I need to, with Shavta, meaning shuv, turn back to the Most High, become a witness, listen to what his voice has to say, okay? And then I'm going to Shema, I'm going to obey it. I'm going to listen to it. Meaning what? I can't perform what he said that I have to perform. I understand that. Yeah, I'm in a bad situation. You know it. You're the one who drove me here. But I am going to listen to you intently, actively. Why? Because you and I have access to the Most High. And we have access to him through the writings. We have access to Yah. You see? One of the things too I wanted to bring out about every time you see this individual or you see a root or you see this diagram that I have is once we start learning how to plant, because this is what a shoresh is. You plant something. Once you learn how to plant one word, right? Then you can learn and that stem grows up. Then you have to learn all the different ways that it can grow. Once you start learning that, you can take one word and you can learn all the different things about it and how it'll grow. You can learn how it actively works. You can learn. And so what it is, even in the Hebrew language, it's a garden of different plants. So if you know 100 Hebrew words, let's just say not 100, that's being a little too much. Say you know 5 Hebrew words, or it's just 2. You take those 2 Hebrew words and you learn, let me go back. Let me be modest. Go back and learn 1 Hebrew word. Once you learn 1 Hebrew word and you know how it works in 7 different ways, then you'll learn that word. And then after you study that and you see that plant, because it is a plant, it'll start growing. You'll be like, okay, well, now I know how that works. I can go get some more seeds and plant, and then I'll get it. And those seeds are another word. And then you plant that word, and then you watch how that one grows. And then you go find out another word. And then before you know it, you have a garden of words that you know that you're intimate with. Because that's all the shoresh is planting a root so you can see a tree or a plant grow. That's all it is. Okay. So when we talk about a shoresh, what you're talking about is a tree. That's what you're talking about. That's a tree. And these are the branches off the tree. And then at the end, you have the flowers and the fruit or whatever comes on it. That's what this is. You see, that's the arm and the branches. Okay, that's all it is. So one word will end up ultimately coming a tree, sprouting through the stem, and it'll grow up. And then all of a sudden, you get into planting, you get into harvesting, you get into all these different things. That's why I encourage people to try to learn a little bit more about the Hebrew language, because it'll teach you how to live. Okay. So pretty much this is it in a nutshell, because what you want to do is you want to take advantage of the opportunity. You and I have an opportunity of a lifetime, right? To be able to restore our relationship back with the Most High. You have an opportunity to grow into the land and have that. Now you say, well, what if I pass away like Moshe did and I'm not able to go into the land? What happens to me? He says, well, you're going to go sleep with your fathers. According to the Hebrew culture and Hebrew language, you will continue to live as long as your name is in his book, his Sefer of the Qayyim, in the book of life. The reason why the people whose names are blotted out from under heaven means that they'll never be able to come into this atmosphere again. They'll never be able to be planted again and to grow up in this world. He'll get rid of them. Why? Because they're a sherry root. Because he doesn't want that in his garden. He doesn't want that among his people. Okay. So as an individual, you and I have an opportunity to have access to the creator of the heavens and the earth. We have an opportunity to live the best lives possible. We're going to have the ability to do all the things that we want to do. We have the ability to make choices and good choices. By the way, the Torah is not going to change when we get to the land. But there's one thing that is going to change. And I want you to hear me. When we go back to the land, okay, there won't be no more curses attached to the covenant that Yah renews with us. He doesn't put a curse on the renewal of the covenant, because Yahweh then gives us the heart. Remember, he said in Jeremiah chapter number 31 that I'm going to, and also in chapter number 36 of Ezekiel, what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean you up. I'm going to give you a new heart. I'm going to give you a new mind. And so in that new mind, there won't be any purpose for the curse. The oath was only there to not only punish us, the oath was there in order to cause us to return to Yah. So the oath was actually a gift. The Ha'ala was a gift from Yah. It's a what do you call it? A safeguard in order to bring us back to him. I hope you can see that. Okay. So that's the opportunity. There's a beginning of your new Torah cycle, which is going to happen next week. Genesis chapter number 1 to chapter number 6, verse number 8. Back on Haftarah, chapter number 42 of Isaiah, all the way to 43 and 10. I want you to do some meditation. I don't give you too much of that. I want you to really meditate upon chapter 1 through 19. That's sufficient. Okay. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give a little bit, and we want the little bit to be meaningful to you. That's what we want. Okay. So the whole Torah cycle again is about to start over. We got a new Torah cycle. We're going to do something new again. Okay. Anybody have any questions before I bring you to our last part, which is our cahoots? Any contributions? Any questions about the exile, when we're going to return, all that sort of thing? Or what did y'all expect? I know this is beneficial. I know it. This is beneficial for me. Yeah, I used the curse. And you and I are different. He didn't give them the eyes to see. He didn't give it to them, but he gave you the eyes to see. You woke up out of your sleep. You know the facts. These are facts. So he's not using open up the Red Sea to get your attention. He's not coming back to do, he is going to come back and he's going to use his power and all that. But when he does it, okay, let's play a little forward. When Most High comes back, and he comes back and he reveals his powerful arm and his outstretched hand and with his signs and his wonders, he did it before. The children of Israel, they couldn't see. It didn't mean anything to them. He's not using that. He's not using that. That's not the method no more. That's over with. That doesn't change. That doesn't change the person's mind. Go ahead, Sister Pam.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you were saying next week we start Torah over in Genesis 1.
Yep.
I don't know how I got off, but I still have chapter 32 through 34 of Deuteronomy.
It's okay.
I'm sorry.
I said it's okay. I don't know if you missed the last class, but I said we're for the last week or 2 weeks, we're gonna read 29
Oh,
to
yeah.
34. Yeah, while
Yeah.
you're on your Sukkot time, I usually give people that space to enjoy their time, and I don't want to take up your time on the Shabbat. I want you to enjoy your time with your family, but that whole time we're supposed to be reading the Torah.
Oh, okay. Well, I was reading. Okay. All right. Hands down. Thank you.
You're welcome. So going back to what I was saying, Yah's not going to use a strong hand, outstretched arm with fury in order to get our attention. So if he did that and he brought us all out to the wilderness, then of course your family members who were against him would say, "Who is this beautiful?" And they'd clap and they would sing and they'd get out there in the wilderness and act a damn fool like we did in the past. They wouldn't change anything. That's not going to change anything. You understand? It didn't work for them. And we're the descendants of those people. So Yah's not using miracles to get our attention. He's using pressure. He's using problems. He's using the weight of the yoke of oppression to get our attention, to wake us up so we can see it. And he gave us a history of everything that's happened in the past. So while you're on your way returning back to him, you can see everything that we did as a people. So you go through the Torah cycle, you're seeing all this disruption, you're seeing all this confusion, you're seeing all this unfaithfulness, you're seeing all this stupidity, you're seeing all this stuff. You see? And that's when you start. So we have enough history to go off of. We don't need to make anything up. There's enough there in the Torah to point you to tell you what's wrong with us. We're stiff-necked people, hard-hearted, won't listen, disobedient, and he's letting us know. This is his way of saying, I want you to live. Moshe said, choose life. I said it right before you today. Same thing. So we have an opportunity to see, because we have enough history, we have enough of it to be able to look back and say, okay, that's what it is. You see? The children of Israel didn't have enough of that. They didn't have any of that. They had their father Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but they were faithful to the Most High. And they did what they were told. They heard about Sodom and Gomorrah, but hey, it didn't happen to us. No big deal. But he's saying you guys are going to go through some things, some of very bad things that you found in chapter number 32. And 31, he says, when these things come upon them, these ra'ot, which is terrible, rabot, meaning these horrible things, these evils that are going to come upon them in the Akarit Tamayim in the final days. You see? So those are the things that are being used to shape us as a people and to get our attention. So you and I can't say that you weren't told. See? So the generation that our family and friends who are now listening to the Most High, they're hoping that when he comes back, they're going to be under that assumption. Well, he came, he got us, he brought us to the wilderness, we're safe for Israel. And he's saying, you didn't read? You didn't read where I told you? I told you to listen to my voice when you were there. You didn't listen when I was there because you said I'm going to be all right. You said I'm going to keep doing what I want to do. You still want to be Shariut. And did I not tell you that I won't forgive you? I did tell you that, right? Yeah, I don't forgive Shariut. I don't care what the New Testament talks about. He will not forgive a Shariut. You understand? He's not going to forgive somebody who said, I'm in the group, I'm going to be okay, I'm going to keep doing what I want to do, because you're affecting everyone else because you have a root of bitterness that's deep and it needs to be dealt with. And that root is going to grow up and it's going to spread. So he has to get rid of it. You understand? So that's what this is about. Okay. One other thing. Let me see here.
Hello. I just have one question,
Yes.
just to make sure I'm following. You said if we had a question in regards to when Yah will return. The answer
Um,
is when the nation is unified, correct?
um,
Or no?
okay, so when you say when the nations unify, what do you mean by that?
Well, remember you were uh addressing like God's followers as like one nation,
Mhm.
and that the nation will have to be in unity. Is that correct?
No, no, the nation won't have to be in unity. What he's saying is, the Most High has said that I'm going to come at a time that I've appointed, right? So if you look at Deuteronomy chapter number 30, which we were going over, he said, when these things start coming to your mind, which cause to become in your mind because of the things that you sever from, it says at that time Yahweh is going to start reversing, right? So it's in Hebrew, it's a participle, meaning it's a process, right? And then he doesn't give a timeline and say, well, this is when I'm coming on this in particular time. We know that he's coming because he says, when that time comes and you start turning back to me, you start listening to me, right? So that right there tells us something that if you and I are listening to him and we're starting to listen to his voice and we are um, obeying what he said, like for example, the Shabbat, the diet, then he said, then the next step is I'm going to start reversing your exile. Okay. The reversing of the exile is to say you're going to start changing the way that you think. And the things around you, the circumstances around you are going to begin to change. And then he says the last part of that is I am going to come and get you. I'm going to come and get you. We don't know when that time is, but we do know that we're on schedule because we have returned back to the Most High. We have started listening to His voice. We have returned to being witnesses to His laws, His statutes, and His commandments. We have begun to listen to the Shabbat and do the Shabbat. We have been following the diet. We have been reading the Torah. Do you understand? So that right there is indicative of the fact that we are as a people. Not everybody, though, is going to do that. And a matter of fact, he does tell us that I'm not coming back because of any good that you have done. This is in Ezekiel chapter number 36. We could begin in verse number 23 and 24. It says, I'm not coming back for any good that you have done. So it's not based on what you guys are doing that makes me come back. It's not how good you do it. It's from the fact that I said this is going to happen. So when it's written, so now that it's written, you and I can see the timetable and say, well, when did I start? When did it come to my mind? It came to my mind 15 years ago. It came to someone else's mind 4 years ago. It came to somebody else's mind last year. So it's a process. And so, like anything that's in agriculture or in times of harvest, some things don't bloom at the time that they're supposed to. Some take a little bit more time. And so Yahweh is waiting. So he has a particular time, but he's not waiting for all of us to turn back to him. My point about having unity was the fact that once the people who have decided to turn back to the Most High, once we go out to the wilderness, and you can find this in Ezekiel chapter number 20, that he says, I'm bringing the rebels out there too. I'm going to take those people who didn't listen to me. I'm coming to deliver them too. That's in chapter number 20, verse number 41, I believe. I'm going to bring them too. They're coming out too. But they didn't listen to him. So what? They're rebelling. I'm still bringing them out. So it's not based upon us doing good and everyone being in compliance. Has nothing to do with that. What it has to do with is what's written. So just what was written in the curses is written in also to the redemption of his people. So it's a promise. So we're in that phase right now. That's for sure. Hopefully it answers your question.
Yes, that was great. Thank you.
Oh, praise Yah. You're welcome. Anyone else? I love that. Feel free to ask questions. Questions is a sign of wisdom. The only reason why he asked that question is because wisdom in Hebrew means the power to ask questions. What is it? He's asking, what is this? That's wisdom. And that's the beginning of what? To fear Yahweh. Wisdom is the beginning of fearing Yahweh. So obviously, asking a question means that you fear Yah. You want to know. You see? So I want you guys to know. It's a good thing to ask questions. There is no bad question. Anyone else in regards to asking any questions about the time that we're in and where we are in the process? Hey, Rivquad, did you You put Azanu as the one for Hayomase?
Yes.
Kane. All right. Oh, okay, here we go. This the one with the Akkad shofar?
Okay.
All right. Let's do this. Share screen. All right. I'll put a little quiz today for you guys. Let me make sure I got the right thing now. Hold on. Those who are watching live by YouTube today, I want to thank you for taking your time today. And those of you who are on my class,